I'm not ashamed to own my Lord, nor to defend his cause. Maintain the honors of his word, the glory of his cross.
Hello, I'm James Brown, and on behalf of the East End Church of Christ, located in Toronto, Canada, I'd like to welcome you to Tuesday's edition of Walking Through the Bible, a podcast where we seek to study the Bible and the Bible alone. Please stick around afterwards for information on how you can contact us. But for now, if you have a Bible with you, please turn to the book of Genesis, and we'll turn you over to Jeremy Dieselkamp for our study of the day.
Thank you, James, and welcome to all of our viewers. This is the 43rd lesson in our study of Genesis. Yesterday we covered Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 to 9, discussing the building of the Tower of Babel, as well as the confusion of language and the dispersion of the people by God. If you missed that episode and would like to watch it, you can find it and all of our other podcasts on our website at www.eastendchurch.org. You can also find them on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/eastendchurchofchrist under the Walking Through the Bible Genesis playlist. Today we're going to begin with Genesis 11:10 and read through verse 26. The text that you'll see on the screen is from the English Standard Version, but you're welcome to follow along with any version that you have. So let's now read Genesis 11, beginning at verse 10. These are the generations of Shem. When Shem was 100 years old, he fathered Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he fathered Arpachshad 500 years and had other sons and daughters. When Arpachshad had lived 35 years, he fathered Shelah. And Arpachshad lived after he fathered Shelah 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah had lived 30 years, he fathered Eber. And Shelah lived after he fathered Eber 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Eber had lived 34 years, he fathered Peleg. And Eber lived after he fathered Peleg 430 years and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg had lived 30 years, he fathered Reu. And Peleg lived after he fathered Reu 209 years and had other sons and daughters. When Reu had lived 32 years, he fathered Serug. And Reu lived after he fathered Serug 207 years and had other sons and daughters. When Serug had lived 30 years, he fathered Nahor. And Serug lived after he fathered Nahor 200 years and had other sons and daughters. When Nahor had lived 29 years, he fathered Terah. And Nahor had lived after he fathered Terah 119 years and had other sons and daughters. When Terah had lived 70 years, he fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. In this passage, we again have the Hebrew word Toledoth, or these are the generations of. Following our previous conclusions, this would mark the end of the record of Shem, contained from Genesis 10:1 to Genesis 11:9. Reading down further to Genesis 11:27 to find the next occurrence of Toledoth, we would find that these are the records of Terah, Abraham's father. This list of names is following the line of Shem, and thus is following some of the same names we read of in chapter 10. However, instead of following the lineage of all of Shem's sons, we are only following the lineage of the children of Arpachshad. The reason is that it is through this lineage that we will eventually come to Abraham. It is Abraham's lineage that we are going to be primarily discussing from this point on through the rest of the Old Testament. Terah gives the years between the birth of Arpachshad and the birth of Abraham to be anywhere between 292 to 350 years, depending on the inclusion of a missing man named Canaan, found in Luke 3:36, and the birth order of Terah's children, something we'll discuss in chapter 12. This time scale uses the Masoretic text, or the Hebrew Bible. Now, this time scale does disagree with the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament, for the Septuagint adds about 900 years to this chapter. The Septuagint does something similar to the lineages of chapter 5, something we said back in lesson 30 that we'll address here. While the Septuagint and the Masoretic texts agree in many places, they aren't exactly the same. We must remember, though, that the Septuagint is a translation of earlier Hebrew copies, while the Masoretic text is a copy of earlier Hebrew copies. Translations can contain places where there were errors in translation, something that a copy is not as susceptible to. Seeing as how the Jews were very meticulous with their copying, and the Septuagint's rendering of years would have Methuselah dying after the flood, it is more reasonable to accept that the ages contained in the Masoretic text as the ones found in the original book of Genesis. This would mean a shorter time frame between the flood and Abraham. Now, lest anyone get the wrong idea, this doesn't mean that the Septuagint is wrong everywhere, but just like we need to be careful to know that our English translations can give incorrect renderings, we need to be aware of this fact when it comes to the Septuagint and these ages. The last issue we'll deal with is the birth order of Noah's sons. Back in lesson 41, we said that there was disagreement between the birth order of Shem and Japheth. What we do know is Genesis 9:24 tells us that Ham is the youngest son. Is there any way to know whether Shem or Japheth is the oldest? Well, Genesis 11:10 says that Shem was 100 years old when he begat Arpachshad, which occurred 2 years after the flood. Genesis 5:32 says that Noah was 500 years old when he begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Genesis 7:6 says Noah was 600 years old when the flood began, 100 years later. From our reading today, we know that Shem was 98 years old when the flood started, so that means he was born when Noah was 502. That means it was Japheth that was born when Noah was 500, and Shem was born when Noah was 502. In the end, does it matter which one is older? No, for no doctrine of Scripture hinges on that point, but it is interesting nonetheless. With that, our time is up for today. Please join us, the Lord willing, tomorrow when we will continue our study of Genesis, beginning with Genesis 11:27.
Thank you, Jeremy. And to our viewers, we also thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. Should you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment below or email us at answerintheword@gmail.com. We'll try to respond to you as quickly as we can. We hope you'll join us, the Lord willing, tomorrow when we'll be continuing our study of the book of Genesis. Goodbye for now and have a great day.
I'm not ashamed to own my Lord.